everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to be joined again this week. We do this weekly with Mr. Michael Vincent. We have got to come up with a better tagline, I think, but podcast guru, sensei,
Sultan
of podcasts, something. I'm sure you've seen his coverage over the years.
Bottom dweller.
Definitely not that. We would love your comments. What is a good tagline for Michael? Sultan of podcasts that's been floated, right?
Oh, dude, don't ask for comments, bro. Be careful what you ask for, man. You might not, who's saying that? Don't ask me what I think of you. You might not like the answer that it might not give you.
Oh, man. But Michael and I, we podcast weekly on sustainability topics.
Yeah.
And we also work together on fuel reduction, emissions reduction, and plastics waste reduction, recycling, with monetary gains for companies and individuals. So it's a fun thing to work on.
That's right, man. You want to make a difference in the world and you need to make it something that people can make money doing, right? Otherwise you're constantly begging for altruism to come by, and it's can be very, very effective. But it's not consistent.
Right. So, yeah. When there's benefits in terms of money and greener, now you're talking, right?
Absolutely. It's just like circular economy and sustainability in your logistics. There's still, even to this day, CEOs that are out there that think it's just a cost drain. When just look up Reuters surveys, look up Fortune magazine surveys of the largest companies around the world. And not only do the CEOs and the CFOs of these major corporations see benefits in it, they expect monetary gains from them and are seeing monetary gains. Because you think about it, man, we're talking about cyber fuels, trucking tower, et cetera, right? You're going greener by reducing the amount of fuel you have to use. That reduces your costs. It's also a 6-in-1 solution. So it actually improves the operation of your engine. Maintenance costs go down, right? Which are soon, and it lowers your emissions. So, and in the plastics industry, eliminating that waste, reusing those raw materials. It's much cheaper, much easier to process and recycle than it is to extract from the earth and produce, right? And it's a smaller smaller carbon footprint. These are the basic principles of supply chain and logistics and management: reduce waste and improve efficiencies, right? I mean,
right.
Reduce costs.
Absolutely.
How can it miss?
Use the resources much more effectively and cut your costs at the same time, instead of virgin plastic and more oil and more, so exactly. Just use it more effectively. And we love the petrochemical industry. It fuels so many things. But you can reduce the amount of fuel you burn, go greener, and then basically pump that money back into more. Let's do more hauling. Let's do more short hauls. Let's do more driver hiring, recruiting, whatever it is, market my company, whatever it is you want to spend the money on, rather than every driver.
Market share, man. Get market share over oil, or fuel or virgin, materials. Design, from product design all the way through end of life and supply chain is what we're talking about here. And really being nimble enough to be able to pivot and not putting all your eggs in one basket is kind of one of the things we're talking about right now, right? And looking for those solutions today and multiple locations. You've got to be nimble. And just like we said before, with the supply chain, right? We just are going through this. Friend shoring is now a word. Near shoring, anywhere other than China shoring, whatever you want to call some of these things, right? You got to look at different things. You can't have all your manufacturing done in China or in Mexico. What happens if Mexico has an issue, right? And you've moved everything. Now you're in trouble again. Well, Akio Toyoda with a D, who is the CEO of Toyota with a T, is now singing, "I told you so. Told you so."
That's right.
We got it from a couple of articles, Fortune, and I sent you another one. I forget who that article came from.
Yes, Jalopnik and Fortune magazine are talking about our key headline topic for today. Toyota's chairman is having his "I told you so" moment about EVs.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you sent me a couple of things on this. And like you said, you just can't put all your eggs in one basket. I think we're in the transition to other things. We're
Absolutely.
all
No
in
doubt.
the world
No
of
doubt.
figuring it out. Well, Toyota came out, with basically a position on
Well, yeah,
something.
well, Akaya Toyoda, he was always kind of this dragging his feet, it seemed to be. People were like, when's Toyota going to get into the EVs? What is all this dragging his feet? And what he kept saying was, and you love this quote, is there are many ways to climb the mountain, right? And he was putting his money into research and development, right? Because they're the ones who came up with just recently announced solid state battery at a commercial and scalable production, mass production scalable by 27, 28, right? So he's not against EVs. He's against just going down that path. You've got to be open to other things. And so he was more on the hybrid side, right?
Yep, more on the hybrid side. It's like he wanted to wait for the market to move into the place where, okay, Toyota's a massive manufacturing company. Okay, now we'll tool up for that because the market is there, right?
Yes.
But you can't
taking a conservative business approach.
You can't build ahead of the market, right? That's a good way to lose a lot of money. And in fact, from what we were talking about offline, some of the big manufacturers have made some statements about pulling back from this, pulling back from that, doing less of this and that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think GM and Ford.
Well, yeah. You're not talking about like the Rivians of the world or the Polestar of the world, the ones that are exclusively EVs, or even Lucid's. They're 30%. I mean, those companies are already down in production because of demand, right? But we're also talking about the behemoths, right? Ford,
right?
Right. Ford is pulling back on their production on the F-150 Lightning. Okay. Bill Ford cites that, listen, the demand is tricky and it's difficult. You got blue and you got red states, you got different agendas, right? Blue states want it at all costs. Damn the torpedoes, we're going for, right? Burn the boats. Red states saying, no way, not in my neighborhood, right? And between, you've got consumers who they don't know what to demand, right? So it's just a mess right now with those hurdles. General Motors, they're pushing back the production of the Silverado EV by a year. They're giving up an entire year and moving back and cutting down. Lucid's down 30%, right? So yeah, these are not like people you never heard of. These are the big dogs saying, I don't think so. And Toyota, biggest dog out there when you start talking about cars, is not going that way. They're going hybrid, right? They're working on some things. They got solid state batteries, but they're not going to convert the Tundra or the Tacoma to EVs. They're just not. They will have electric, but not at that pace because it's just not there. The hurdles are difficult. Demand is going down from the people. The interesting thing about this, in my opinion, I'm not going to say I saw this coming, but I saw this coming because you can't just, the infrastructure's not there. The viability of it isn't there. I mean, Derek Leathers talks about that. Bruffett talks about that. The viability in at least the Class 8 isn't there, and it isn't there in the commercial aspect of it either. As far as the monetary, the financial, it doesn't make sense at this particular time because of all these different issues, right?
Yep, absolutely. Taking one thing from the Jalopnik article. It said, after a relatively hot last couple of years, EV sales have cooled off. A lot of American buyers don't want them, and things like unaffordability and high interest rates haven't helped things. And it looks as if Akio Toyoda may have been right to take the stance he did.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's avoiding having to pull back on production. I mean, pulling back on production isn't just dialing the knob back, right? You've got assets and money that are sitting there spent that are now losing, right? That's like saying, well, you know what? I'm only going to run half loads on that truck now. Okay. That's not good.
No.
Right?
And yeah, you don't have this knob. And it's like there's certain facilities, entire facilities that employ thousands of people. And if you say, I'm just not going to do that car for a year or two.
Yes.
What do you do with all the people?
That's exactly right. It's not a knob. You just turn the volume down. That's
No.
not how it works. There's a lot of money and lives and stuff like that involved. And so responsible growth is one of those things. The thing that I kind of want to discuss with you and put it out there in people's heads is, okay, we're talking about pickup trucks, right? And private vehicles, right? This is what we're talking about. The private citizens. We're not talking about Class 8 trucks. The F-150 Lightning is a workhorse, obviously, in many, many fleets. And so that impacts commercial, no doubt about it. So will the Silverado. But we're not talking about, Cascadias and all this other kind of stuff. But how does this type of sentiment and these type of hurdles in that big private market impact the process or the gains or the timeline in the commercial? I contend that it's not a good impact because, right? I mean, there's less pressure on government and utilities, et cetera, to boost the infrastructure faster. And therefore, if there's less pressure, there's less money and less investment. So it kind of slows things down, or has the potential to slow things down, right?
Yeah.
I would
if I take it down to the very lowest level. So a fuel station.
Yeah.
Right. So if the private industry is not using the charging stations in a big way, all the infrastructure that goes to get that power to that place and then set up in the back where the diesel trucks pull through, set up the EVs out there too. It's all tied together. You have to have the infrastructure to support the demand. But what Toyota was saying is the demand is not there to support taking a factory and changing it all to electric. It's just not there yet. So,
and it's not there because there's questions about it. There's difficulties about that. I mean, the stress of owning an EV starts after you buy an EV, and there's way too many stories out there that are, you can call them anecdotal if you want, but they're not. I mean, when you survey your customers and they tell you what's right or wrong with your product, that's not anecdotes, right? Those are survey facts. And that's what these are. These aren't anecdotal things when people are reporting and talking about the fact that, listen, I'm driving my F-150 and I can't find a place to park or to charge it, or half the charging stations don't work, or they're too busy doing this, or I try and do one, but it's for Teslas and not for everybody else. There's not a standardization of it across the boards, or, it gets 350 miles on a range, but if I tow something, then I got 100 miles. The stress is there and it's real. And too many people are buying them and then going back, right? There's a lot that keep them, and that's fine. I see them all over, actually. I mean, it's not uncommon anymore to see them around Hickson, Tennessee, which is, relative to many places, nowhere, right? But and they're there, but they're people commuting during the day, kids to school, maybe to grocery store and go home, or to work and back type of thing. And in here, it actually works really good. I mean, we had the Overly from Green Fuels, right? Mary, you talked to Overly from Green Fuels, and like here, an electric vehicle is actually pretty green because I live in TVA land, right? My energy is hydro.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, is the transition, right? It's how do you get enough of low enough cost power that, you're not completely reliant on some foreign country. Let's talk about big rig trucks for a minute.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, supply chain industry. Trucks move military products, military personnel. They move critical food supplies. And if you're saying that we're going to just give that to a foreign adversary and just let them supply us, there's people in Washington saying, no, we're not doing that. You're not just talking about emissions and so forth. And now you're talking about the safety and security of our supply chain.
National security. The supply chain must move. And I think really woke people up during the pandemic, the ability for economies and supply chains to be weaponized.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. We had major league supply chain interruptions, and it really shined a light on, wow, we're really dependent on these couple of countries for things like medicine,
Yes.
food.
Yes.
But even more importantly, one of the things that was just really eye opening was, all those components that you use to actually drive a truck or a car, when you can't get them, you can't get cars or trucks.
When you can't get them, you can't get them. Remember the salsa trucks? They were all truck, no chips.
Yeah. Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Hello.
There were literally people that were renting lots to store vehicles
That had no chips
for a year because they couldn't get the computer chip that
100%.
was needed to make that car drive down the road.
100%. And recently, Tesla, although getting pounded in the third quarter with just a terrible third quarter, $138 billion market cap loss. I read that in Fortune, Elon Musk's his net worth dropped like $28 billion.
Ouch.
Can you imagine? I can't take that kind of hit. Can you?
No, I can't.
I can't.
I don't have that kind of a hit to take.
You can give me that bill. I ain't gonna be able to pay it though. That's a lot of dishes.
Right, exactly. Where's that money coming from?
Right, but it's not from podcasting. I'll tell you. No, but they're really strategizing and researching on how to move away from, and like Akayo Toyota, looking at different types of batteries and that type of stuff, because there's already a shortage and an issue in the supply chain and availability of the rare earth materials to build the batteries. We don't even have an industry that's out of its infancy, and they're running out of materials to do it, right? And oh, by the way, China controls 83% of the production capabilities and 74% of the mining, and like 80% of the processing capacity for rare earth metals that you have to have for batteries. So good luck with that one.
Well, one of my friends posted a thing with a repair bill on a Chevy Volt, I do believe. Yeah. And it was $30,000. Now,
did they give him $1.50 battery charge on it or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, something like that. Installation fee on top of that,
Yeah.
And it's like a shocker, right? But and the backstory is there's context, right? That was a battery that was very difficult to find, and it was an older vehicle, and they were like, you just can't find that battery, or not just one, it's a pack, right? But you just can't find it. So if you can't find it, that's called extremely high demand and a very low supply. That drives your price way, way up.
I remember when you couldn't find parts for Daewoo.
Yeah.
Remember the Daewoos? I
remember that. Yeah, Daewoo. Oh, yeah.
They went out of business, and suddenly the used cars were worth nothing because there were no parts anywhere. They weren't even around long enough to have any in the junkyard to go get parts for them. They were just, oh, well.
Well, I lived it, actually. So I had a Saab. Remember Saab?
Yeah, absolutely. I love them.
Fun story. My wife and I were shopping for one. This is many years ago. And then we were shopping and negotiating. And then I had to go on an overseas trip for a business. And I come home and I pop my garage door open, and it's sitting there. A Saab 9.3. I'm like, whoa. So I held onto that car way past its useful life.
Yeah. Well, they would run forever. Those were great cars. I loved them. I thought they were great.
I did too. Oh, I love that car. And basically what happened though was Saab went out of business. GM purchased Saab, but then shut it down. And then they wouldn't release the parts patents to anybody. So what it ends up being was a wild, wild west
for parts.
Find that part. You had to go to junkyards and online, seedy places online, and all kinds of stuff to find. So so I'll give you an example. I had the actual drive shaft cable. So you got your transmission, your shifter.
Yeah.
Shifter.
Yeah.
Cable broke. Can't drive it. So I'm out there literally
not without a cable
everywhere, high and low. I finally find one. The part was $900. for a cable.
Back in the day. I mean, that's expensive
like
now.
12 years ago or 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. But between that plus the repair, you're starting to push, like, is the car worth that much at this point? Like, I mean, it was, but I mean, do you really want to sink 70 or 60% of the value of the car into a repair? I mean, that's what it gets to, right? And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just not going to do that. So, I lived it, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I've driven many of those cars where it's just calculating, okay, my monthly maintenance is still less than a new car payment, so we're good to go.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. No, but the one
Once
thing
you get a new car, that one breaks down all the time because it's still cheaper than a new car payment. That's why.
That's right. Exactly. And a lot of people, I think, are, the market gets smart, right? So people are saying, how much does it cost to replace the EV batteries in this? Because eventually they die, just like batteries. Batteries die. So you have to figure that into your decision. So in 4 or 5 years, I'm going to have $8,000 worth of batteries. Is it still worth it if I'm going to keep this car for 6 or 7 years or 8, whatever? So it all factors into the decision, and what the market basically says what's going to happen. The market says, I like it. I don't like it. Let's do it. Let's not do it.
And people figure it out eventually. It may take them longer on certain things than other things, but that's what he's saying. His exact quote was, people are finally seeing reality.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And that's what it is. I mean, you can't mandate in a market. It doesn't work. And many times you can't incentivize in a market, right? So, I mean, I remember in the late 90s, you could get tax credits for buying hybrid cars. Remember the Honda Insight and the original Prius, etc. You could get tax.
I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you could get tax credits for those things, and solar power was a huge tax credit, and it still is in some areas, right? Yeah. But sometimes it just doesn't work. I mean, buying an electric vehicle, you might get a tax credit or some sort of incentive to do that, but if you can't charge it, so what?
Right. So what? One of the ones that was the most bizarre was electric golf carts. There was a entire 100% payment if you got an electric golf cart.
Really?
A tax reduction in your payment of the amount of up to, I want to say it was $7,500. So there was a mad dash for people to get electric golf carts. Who wouldn't want an electric golf cart? They're fun, right?
Amen. If I live,
that incentive went away,
people do. There's certain neighborhoods where you have them all the time. I mean, down in Florida, some of those big like Reunion and places like that, where there is an celebration. That's all people drive are golf carts, unless they're like leaving their community, which those are big communities. You literally 10, 15 restaurants, couple movie theaters, and a hospital in your community. You never have to leave.
Right. No, we've had one. We had an electric golf cart for a while. And the funny thing is, I had to replace the batteries. I had to
replace you're running on D-cells
on it. And I had to spend I think it was $600 to go ahead and put new batteries in it, but we wanted to use it. And my father-in-law has a lake property. So it was fun for the kids, they're in they're teenagers at the time, right? To drive it around the neighborhood, drive it around, have fun, and so, but then it hurt when I got the $600 bill. I was like, ouch, I'm going to have to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
But
that's,
yeah.
Here's the point. The EVs are not just around the corner, which they're not. They're coming. No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And there's a great quote from what is her name again? Jessica Caldwell in Fortune. She's the head insights at Edmunds, right? And she makes a great point, right? The industry is moving towards EVs. To deny that would be unwise. After after going through this whole article and everything we just talked about, 100% spot on. But to think that they're going to be here next week or next decade is also unwise. Yeah. Right. And
the way I see it is, it's going to come in segments of the market.
Yes.
Right. from a
Yes.
maritime port to a local warehouse with a station right there. That makes sense. Like, it's going to happen. It's coming. Like you said, to deny that would be silly.
It'd be silly, but you're exactly right. DC to store and back, like Home Depot inner loops, not an issue, right?
Right.
Target inner loops, Walmart inner loops. And like we see, it appears maritime, who is like slightly behind the times than trucking, right? I mean, they still wear double-breasted suits and smoke cigars at their annual conferences, right? And top hats. I think I saw one. It seems like, but they're way ahead of the time as far as alternative fuels. Am I wrong? I mean, Cargill's got wings sales going back up. Maersk is running methanol. Right? And you've got hydrogen ships coming out. Recently, there was an announcement of building them in India at Cochin shipyards. And it makes sense because it's port to port, and they're already hauling the materials or the fuels that they're going to use to power the ships. So the infrastructure is there.
Right.
It's not in trucks yet. It's not there for cars yet. We've got to get those things in place. We will sooner or later, but it ain't going to be tomorrow.
It's a transition.
Right. But people can make an impact right now. You can go greener right now, and you can save money, right?
That's right. Go greener while getting more green, right? So go greener, put some more green in the company at the same time.
It's a green. It's not a win-win. It's a green, bro.
Green. That's our new slogan.
Right.
Green.
They need to click my link is what they need to do. And then they need to get a money-back guaranteed test on their vehicles in their work environment. Right? I mean, we're not going to run them around a test track and go, hey, see?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we're not going to put them on a dyno and controlled environment and tune it just perfectly. And then they see it works.
Yeah.
No, it's real world. Yeah. And so definitely click on Michael's link. We will get you underway to saving a lot of money while going greener. And it's a lot of fun doing this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could go through the list of certifications and all that kind of stuff. But listen, it's certified. It Magnuson, Moss Act, EPA, all that stuff. It's there. It's insured, everything.
Proven, insured, EPA certified. Doesn't violate the Magnuson Moss Warranty Act.
No.
It's like, it's ready to go. It is here now, and we're doing it, and that's fun. So
60 million gallons of diesel can't all be wrong.
Right. That's right. 60 million gallons of fuel treatment can't be wrong. It's like the market has moved this way. So now we're just basically working to keep up, with everything.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah.
Until we get EVs right.
Yeah.
And we will. Or there'll be ZEVs anyways. Some of them will be EVs in this application. Some of them will be hydrogen in this application, and so on and so forth, right? I'm reading an article right now that we're going to have to talk about next week or something, but I'll get it for you. Dude, it's a water-injected turbocharged hydrogen engine. Have you seen this yet?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah. It's turbocharged with water injectors, not fuel injected, water injected to get more horsepower.
Very interesting.
Do that to my Chevy Malibu Classic back in the 70s. Just throw a water injector right into that piston head and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. See what happens when you do that. Yeah,
not going to be good.
No, there's the market is moving, and the cool thing is there's all kinds of opportunities. And I call it the new green economy. It's moving that way. And to say that it's not, you're going to just get run over. So yes, things are transitioning and moving. And the cool thing with our work together and with Cyber Fuels is we're moving with it. Right. So just keep going. And so that'll do it for this episode this week. Great topic. I feel like that was a lot of fun. I could talk about this for 2 hours, but we'll let people get back to their normal life. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we will see you again next week.
Right on. Peace and love.